Alex's life came to a brutal end in the orphanage he had called home for years. Late at night, 17-year-old Alex was awakened by 15-year-old Kate, a girl he treated as his own little sister. She told him that something had happened at the orphanage and that Granny Malida urgently wanted to see him in the backyard garden. Because the children in the orphanage were like family to one another, Alex never doubted her words. He quickly got dressed and followed her instructions. Unknown to him, Kate had betrayed him. After he left, she revealed her true intentions. She believed that if Alex remained alive, a man named young Master Ray would never accept her as his concubine. Despite the fact that Alex had spent years sharing his already limited food with her whenever she cried from hunger, Kate felt no gratitude. Alex's constant sacrifices had left him with a thin and scrawny physique, but he had always been happy to care for her as a younger sister. The garden was dark, cold, and covered in thick mist. Alex could barely see anything as he called out for Granny Malida. Before he could understand what was happening, something struck the back of his head. As he collapsed, his fading vision revealed the person who had attacked him. It was Kate, holding an iron rod and wearing a sinister smile. Shocked and heartbroken, Alex could only ask a single question: why? Before losing consciousness. After Alex fell, young Master Ray appeared. He praised Kate's cruelty and even questioned whether she felt guilty for murdering someone who had cared for her. Kate dismissed Alex as a weak fool and claimed that sharing food did not make him her brother. She also mentioned that Alex had seen something he should not have seen involving Ray. The two then left together, with Ray amused by her ruthless nature. Suddenly, Alex woke up in terror. At first, he believed everything had merely been a nightmare. However, he quickly realized he was no longer in his room at the orphanage. Instead, he was lying in a medical room, surrounded by advanced instruments, with numerous wires attached to his body. Before he could understand the situation, 5 people rushed into the room. A woman immediately embraced him while crying uncontrollably. She repeatedly called him her son and showered him with affection. An older woman eventually calmed her down and reminded her that the doctor needed to examine him first. The emotional woman named Elizabeth reluctantly stepped aside. Before the doctor could complete his examination, Alex suddenly screamed and lost consciousness once again. Elizabeth nearly collapsed from fear. Her son had been in a coma for 2 years, and after finally waking up, he had fallen unconscious again. While examining him, the doctor released a strange energy into Alex's body. After a careful inspection, he reassured everyone that Alex was merely sleeping and would wake up again soon. Relieved, Elizabeth ordered 2 maids to prepare a healthy meal, while the older woman was instructed to reward the doctor with a top-quality cosmic crystal. The doctor was overjoyed by the reward and chose to remain nearby until Alex awakened. 3 hours later, Alex opened his eyes again. This time, everything was different. During his unconscious state, he had inherited the memories of the body's original owner, a 12-year-old boy, also named Alex. The memories revealed a shocking truth. Alex had transmigrated into an entirely different world, a high-level martial world filled with cultivation and powerful families. Even more astonishing was the identity of the body he now occupied. This Alex was the heir of an emperor family located on the central continent. Elizabeth noticed him waking up and immediately called the doctor. After another examination using his energy, the doctor confirmed that Alex was healthy. He simply needed food and exercise because his body had remained inactive during the 2-year coma. Learning this made Alex realize what had happened. The original owner of this body had likely died during the coma, creating an opportunity for Alex's soul to enter. At the same time, he finally accepted the painful truth that Kate had truly murdered him in his previous life. When Elizabeth returned with food, Alex awkwardly called her Mom. Having grown up as an orphan, speaking that word felt strange to him. Nevertheless, the simple greeting deeply moved Elizabeth. She happily encouraged him to eat. An enormous feast was placed before him. Having spent his previous life enduring constant hunger, Alex could hardly believe the amount of food available. He devoured everything voraciously while Elizabeth watched with tears of joy. Seeing her son eating again after 2 years filled her with overwhelming happiness. While eating, Alex felt the memories and emotions of the original Alex blending with his own. Curious about his new life, he asked about his father and their current location. However, Elizabeth and her mother both became visibly saddened and postponed the discussion. They insisted that he rest first. After everyone left, Alex decided not to lie down. Remembering the doctor's advice, he got up to move his body. At that moment, a strange display suddenly appeared in the corner of his vision. When he focused on it, it expanded into a familiar interface. To his astonishment, it was the exact interface of the game he had been playing before his death, Infinite Cultivation. The screen displayed a young man in white robes, sitting cross-legged alongside a status panel. Name: Alex Moriarty. Cultivation talent: unawakened. Cultivation level: null. Cultivation base: 0/1000. Energy absorption: 0s. Stunned, Alex wondered if the game had somehow transmigrated alongside him. Then he noticed a button labeled Cultivate. Curious, he pressed it immediately. A notification appeared. 1 top-grade cosmic crystal is needed to start cultivation. The revelation suggested that the mysterious game system had followed him into this new martial world, potentially becoming his greatest opportunity in a life that had already changed completely. Alex stared at the cultivation interface floating before his eyes, hardly believing what he was seeing. After transmigrating into a new body in a high-level martial world, it appeared that the game he had been playing before his death, Infinite Cultivation, had followed him here as well. A smile spread across his face as excitement replaced much of the despair he had felt since learning about Kate's betrayal and his murder. If the game truly functioned in this world, it could become the greatest opportunity of his new life. As he calmed himself, Alex reviewed the memories he had inherited from the original owner of the body. This world revolved around the Ascension Tower, a mysterious structure that determined the future of every person once they reached the age of 15. The tower contained 100 stairs, and the higher someone climbed, the greater the talent they awakened. Reaching even the first stair was enough to awaken a talent and become a martial artist. The world's power system was divided into 8 major realms: martial warrior, martial master, martial grandmaster, martial lord, martial king, martial monarch, martial saint, and martial emperor. Martial emperors stood at the absolute peak of humanity. They possessed such overwhelming strength that a single punch could destroy an entire continent. Alex was shocked when he remembered that the Moriarty family, his new family, was descended from one of these legendary martial emperors. His status as heir should have placed him among the most privileged youths in the world. However, another memory reminded him that things were far from normal. Instead of living with the Moriarty family, he was currently residing with his maternal relatives. His mother's family was the powerful Aurelian family, a martial saint family located on the western continent within the Light Domain. Although slightly inferior to the Moriartys, they remained one of the most influential powers in existence. Alex stretched his body carefully. After remaining in a coma for 2 years, every movement caused his joints and bones to crack painfully. As the memories fully merged with his own, he realized a frightening fact. He had almost no time left before his 15th birthday. Looking at the date, he saw that it was July 7th, year 534 of the Apocalypse calendar. Before falling into a coma, he had been 13 years old in year 532. Only 25 days remained before he would be required to enter the Ascension Tower. This realization hit him hard. Children in this world began training from the age of 8 or even younger. They practiced external martial arts, tempered their bodies, and strengthened their willpower to prepare for the tower's trials. Before his coma, Alex had been considered a prodigy. He had mastered various external martial arts, including sword arts and movement techniques. Many believed he would climb beyond 60 stairs, a feat associated with S-rank talent. But losing 2 years had nearly ruined his future. Determined to understand his situation fully, Alex decided to speak with his mother. He left his room and was immediately approached by 2 maids who respectfully urged him to rest. Instead, he asked them to guide him to Elizabeth's room. When Alex knocked and entered, he found his mother in a deeply emotional state. Unknown to him before, Elizabeth had been crying while holding a picture of her missing husband. She revealed the tragic events of the past 2 years. Alex's father had disappeared 1 year earlier while searching for a cure for his comatose son. After his disappearance, the Moriarty family gradually began treating Elizabeth poorly. They even stopped paying for Alex's medical expenses. Forced into a difficult situation, Elizabeth had taken her son and returned to her own family for protection. Hearing this filled Alex with sadness. Tears appeared in his eyes when he learned that his father had sacrificed everything and vanished because of him. Surprisingly, he felt little anger toward the Moriarty family. Having experienced hardship and betrayal in his previous life, he understood the selfish nature of people all too well. Changing the subject, Alex asked Elizabeth if she possessed a top-grade cosmic crystal. Although surprised by the request, she confirmed that she did. Alex then explained that he had supposedly dreamed that holding a top-grade cosmic crystal might help restore his strength before the Ascension Tower trial. While Elizabeth doubted the claim, she could not bear to deny her son anything after nearly losing him. Thinking about the possibility of Alex becoming talentless and suffering ridicule in the future caused her to cry once more. Before leaving, Alex thanked her warmly and even teased her gently by saying that her beautiful face did not suit tearful eyes. His words made Elizabeth smile despite her sorrow. Carrying the cosmic crystal, Alex returned to his room. Along the way, numerous members of the Aurelian family noticed him. Their reactions varied. Some looked sympathetic, while others displayed jealousy and ridicule. Many younger relatives resented the resources spent on him despite his condition. One cousin, the son of Alex's eldest uncle, openly complained that the trash of the Moriarty family was being supported by their family. Alex ignored all of them completely. He had no interest in petty insults. Once inside his room, he immediately tested the cultivation interface. Placing the top-grade cosmic crystal in his hand, he pressed the cultivate button. Instantly, the crystal vanished. The panel updated. Name: Alex Moriarty. Cultivation talent: pseudo. Cultivation level: mortal. Cultivation base: 3/1000. Energy absorption: 1. C. The system had activated successfully. Alex watched in amazement as his cultivation base steadily increased every second. While waiting, he wondered why his talent was listed as pseudo. He suspected it was because he had not yet entered the Ascension Tower to awaken a true talent. 16 minutes later, his cultivation base reached 1000/1000. A new option appeared: breakthrough. Without hesitation, Alex pressed it. A cracking sensation echoed throughout his body. Instantly, the weakness caused by his coma disappeared. Strength and vitality surged through him like a flood. The panel updated again. Name: Alex Moriarty. Cultivation talent: pseudo. Cultivation level: 1. Cultivation base: 1006/5000. Energy absorption: 2. S. Alex stared at the screen in shock and excitement. For the first time since arriving in this world, he had tangible proof that the Infinite Cultivation System was real. Whether his power now matched a level 1 martial warrior remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: his path to reclaiming his future had finally begun. Alex's excitement only grew after his first successful breakthrough. Standing alone in his room, he wanted to know exactly how much stronger he had become. He opened the attribute panel on the Infinite Cultivation interface and carefully examined the numbers displayed before him. His strength and defense had both reached 2000 kilograms. kilograms, while his speed had risen to 20 meters per second. Based on the memories of this world, Alex immediately understood what that meant. He had already reached the level of a first-rank martial warrior. That realization was astonishing. In this world, ordinary people trained their bodies from childhood through combat arts and genetic serums. Even exceptionally talented youths usually developed around 1,000 kilograms of strength before entering the martial warrior realm. Upon breaking through, that strength normally doubled to around 2,000 kilograms. Yet Alex had only just awakened from a 2-year coma. His physical foundation before cultivation should have been far weaker than average. The fact that he still reached the standard of a peak, level 1 martial warrior, suggested that the cultivation system had amplified his foundation far beyond normal limits. However, Alex knew strength alone was not enough. The Ascension Tower would open for him in only 25 days. While he could increase his cultivation rapidly, he also needed control over his power. Otherwise, his body and techniques would lag behind his raw strength. He decided to return to the basics and practice swordsmanship. His room was spacious enough for training, and he preferred remaining isolated. He had no desire to deal with jealous relatives or family politics. More importantly, he had a clear goal now. He wanted enough strength to change his fate, find his missing father, and restore happiness to his family. Having lived as an orphan in his previous life, he treasured Elizabeth's genuine love more than anything. For the first time, he understood what it felt like to have a parent who truly cared for him. After searching the room, Alex realized there was no sword available. He opened the door and found the 2 maids standing guard outside as usual. Politely, he requested a training sword. Both maids expressed concern because he had only recently awakened from his coma, but one of them quickly retrieved a wooden sword from her storage ring and handed it to him. Thanking her, Alex returned to his room. He immediately began practicing the basic sword technique. Slash, chop, thrust. He repeated the movements over and over. According to rumors, someone who mastered the 9th level of the basic sword technique could awaken sword intent. However, nobody had ever confirmed this because most martial artists abandoned basic techniques once stronger arts became available. Alex focused entirely on refining every movement, determined to build a solid foundation. 3 hours passed before a knock interrupted his training. When Alex opened the door, he found Elizabeth standing there. Her face showed equal parts concern and frustration. Apparently, the maids had informed her after hearing hours of non-stop sword practice. Embarrassed, Alex apologized and explained that he had simply become too focused. Elizabeth's anger softened after hearing his explanation. She instructed him to take a shower and promised to send food to his room. Before leaving, she coldly ordered the maids to report immediately if anyone dared bully her son. Alex entered the bathroom and allowed the cold water to wash away the sweat from training. Feeling refreshed, he remembered to check the cultivation system. The sight nearly made him laugh. His cultivation base had reached 5,000 over 5,000, with an additional 17,700 points stored beyond the cap. A breakthrough option was waiting for him. Without hesitation, Alex pressed it. A surge of energy rushed through his body as he advanced to level 2. His cultivation base immediately updated to 10,000 over 10,000, with over 12,000 extra points remaining. Curious about the results, he checked his attributes. His strength and defense had doubled again, reaching 4,000 kilograms, while his speed increased to 25 meters per second. A normal level 2 martial warrior possessed only around 3,000 kilograms of strength. Once again, the Infinite Cultivation System proved superior to the conventional martial path. Alex immediately broke through again. He advanced to level 3. His strength rose to 6,500 kilograms. His speed reached 30 meters per second, and his defense matched his strength. The increase was even greater than before. Unable to contain his excitement, Alex continued. Another breakthrough pushed him to level 4. Now his strength and defense stood at 9,500 kilograms, while his speed climbed to 35 meters per second. According to his memories, this made him comparable to a level 9 martial warrior despite cultivating for only 3 hours. Countless low-talent cultivators spent years reaching such a level. A grin spread across Alex's face. With this kind of growth, he was beginning to see the possibility of dominating the Ascension Tower itself. Historical records stated that reaching the 60th stair generally required over 1,000 kilograms of strength, while reaching the 70th demanded at least 1,500 kilograms, along with exceptional mental resilience. As for the 90th stair, only 1 or 2 people in all of recorded history had ever reached it. Their true capabilities remained classified secrets. Even so, Alex suspected that his current physical strength already exceeded what those legendary figures possessed before entering the tower. His only remaining concern was mental power. Physical strength alone could not conquer the tower's trials. He would eventually need techniques capable of strengthening his spirit and willpower. After finishing his shower, Alex found food waiting for him. While eating, he carefully studied the system panel. His cultivation talent remained listed as pseudo. His cultivation level had reached level 4. His energy absorption rate had increased to 4 points per second, and his cultivation base continued accumulating without resetting. This revealed an important secret. Cultivation base represented stored energy reserves. Based on the current absorption speed, he calculated that another breakthrough would arrive in approximately 75 minutes. Not knowing whether the system absorbed energy from cosmic crystals or the environment, Alex decided to stop worrying and get some sleep. His power had increased too quickly, and his body needed time to adapt. Besides, training further would only earn another lecture from Elizabeth. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling completely refreshed. The first thing he did was check his status panel. His cultivation base had reached 40,000 over 40,000 with an additional 10,000 points stored beyond the limit. This confirmed his suspicion. The system was consuming energy from the top-grade cosmic crystal. If it had been absorbing energy directly from the environment, the gain should have been far higher during 8 hours of sleep. Based on the numbers, Alex estimated that a top-grade cosmic crystal contained roughly 50,000 units of energy. Without wasting another second, he pressed breakthrough. An overwhelming surge of power exploded throughout his body as he advanced to cultivation level 5. His attributes rose dramatically once again. Strength, 13,000 kilograms. Speed, 40 meters per second. Defense, 13,000 kilograms. By the time the breakthrough ended, Alex stood there in stunned silence. Just one day earlier, he had been a frail boy recovering from a coma. Now he possessed strength that would leave most young cultivators speechless. And with 24 days still remaining before the Ascension Tower trial, his future looked brighter than ever. Alex's rapid rise in power had temporarily paused. After reaching cultivation level 5, he checked the Infinite Cultivation System once more and quickly realized that his passive growth had stopped. His cultivation base stood at 50,000 out of the 80,000 points needed for the next breakthrough. The reason became obvious almost immediately. The top-grade cosmic crystal had been completely drained. Without another crystal, the system could no longer continue absorbing energy automatically. Surprisingly, Alex did not feel disappointed. In fact, he believed his current strength was already more than enough for the moment. His bigger problem was control. Having gained enormous power in such a short time, he needed to learn how to wield it properly before pursuing even greater strength. Mastering his body and mind would be far more valuable than recklessly stacking power. As he considered his next move, someone knocked on his door. The meal his mother had arranged finally arrived. Alex freshened up and eagerly sat down to eat. Because he could no longer absorb energy through the cultivation system, his body desperately craved nourishment. The maid watching him was astonished. Alex wasn't merely eating, he was devouring food at an unbelievable speed. Within minutes, every dish had vanished. Embarrassed but still hungry, Alex asked for 5 additional portions of the same meal. The maids happily agreed. Seeing him eat so much reassured them that his body was recovering after spending 2 years in a coma. Once they left, Alex planned out the rest of his day. Since he could not cultivate further right now, he decided to visit the family library and deepen his understanding of the world. Books had always been one of Alex's greatest passions. Even in his previous life, when he had almost no money, he had worked at an old bookstore just to earn a few hours of reading time every day. That love of knowledge remained unchanged. Soon, the 2 maids returned carrying enormous trays of food. For the first time, Alex learned their names, Rina and Lena. Watching them effortlessly balance multiple heavy trays made him suspect they were martial artists themselves. After finishing the food, he headed toward the library accompanied by the 2 women. The Aurelian family library exceeded all expectations. Hundreds of thousands of books filled the enormous building. Alex selected books covering history, cultivation, martial arts, and world knowledge before settling into a quiet corner. Thanks to his enhanced cultivation, both his memory and reading speed had improved dramatically. In only 5 hours, he finished every book he had selected. When Rina arrived to remind him about lunch, Alex instructed her to prepare another large meal in his room while he finished reading. 30 minutes later, he returned the books and left with Lena. During those hours of study, Alex learned many important details about humanity's history. 534 years earlier, a massive crack had appeared in the sky. Dark energy poured through it, transforming Earth into something vastly larger than before. The catastrophe worsened when animals across the world mutated into terrifying creatures. Even legendary beings from myths appeared, including dragons, phoenixes, titans, and monsters resembling Godzilla. Within 10 hours, 80% of humanity had perished. Just when extinction seemed inevitable, a gigantic pillar of light descended from the heavens. Every surviving human was teleported into a protected region known as the Light Domain. Although this sanctuary was 100 times larger than the original Earth, it occupied only 1% of the planet's current size. The remaining 99% remained consumed by darkness and populated by monstrous creatures. The pillar itself was none other than the Tower of Ascension. The tower gave humanity a path to power by allowing every 15-year-old to awaken talents and become martial artists. A universal cultivation technique was inscribed upon it, marking the beginning of the martial era. Over 5 centuries, humanity had rebuilt itself and grown strong enough to challenge many of the monsters lurking beyond the Light Domain. Even so, darkness still dominated most of the world. Alex also learned that more than 20 billion humans now lived within the Light Domain, yet only around 100 million became martial artists. Those with awakened talents ruled society, while ordinary people possessed few rights. The realization made Alex sigh. Even after surviving an apocalypse, human greed and inequality remained unchanged. After returning to his room, showering, and eating another enormous meal, Alex reflected on what he had learned. One subject interested him more than anything else: mental cultivation. He discovered that strength alone could not guarantee success in the Tower of Ascension. Mental power and control were equally important. Knowing exactly who could help him, Alex visited Elizabeth. When he entered her room, he found his mother working on something. After a brief conversation about lunch, Alex requested a meditation technique. To his surprise, Elizabeth immediately produced a scroll from her storage ring as though she had anticipated his request. The technique was called spirit art. According to Elizabeth, it would strengthen his mind while also improving his control over his growing power. Suspicious of her perfect timing, Alex jokingly asked whether she could read minds. Elizabeth responded with laughter and playful teasing, refusing to answer directly. Slightly embarrassed, Alex quickly retreated with the scroll. After he left, Elizabeth resumed her work. Alex learned indirectly that she had been creating a martial art of her own. This reflected how martial techniques had evolved over the centuries, with powerful cultivators continuously contributing new knowledge to humanity. Back in his room, Alex immediately began studying spirit art. The technique appeared simple on the surface, requiring practitioners to complete 10 breathing cycles per day. However, the moment he finished the first cycle, he realized how brutal it truly was. Sweat poured from every pore in his body. His muscles contracted and relaxed uncontrollably. Agonizing pain spread through every part of him. Still, Alex endured. For 6 straight hours, he forced himself through all 10 cycles. By the end, he felt completely drained. Despite possessing 13,000 kilograms of strength, he barely had enough energy left to collapse onto his bed. The instant his body touched the mattress, he fell into a deep sleep. The following morning, overwhelming hunger woke him. Curious about the results of his suffering, Alex checked his status panel. His physical attributes remained unchanged, but a brand new category had appeared. Spirit 10 kilograms. A huge smile spread across his face. The spirit art had worked exactly as promised. Every painful second had been worthwhile. Without wasting any time, Alex ordered Lina to bring food. After eating another massive meal, he immediately resumed his meditation training. He had already decided on his goal. For the next 10 days, he would focus entirely on spirit art. No distractions, no shortcuts, only mental cultivation. And so, 10 days quietly passed. Alex emerged from 10 days of relentless meditation with remarkable results. After completing the 20th cycle of spirit art, he slowly opened his eyes and assessed the changes within himself. The training had transformed his awareness to an astonishing degree. He could now perceive the faint expansion of his lungs, the rhythm of his heartbeat, and even the subtle movements occurring inside his digestive system. Although he still could not consciously control those internal functions, he understood that spirit art was gradually giving him mastery over his own body. Someday, even his nervous system would obey his will. When Alex checked his status panel, the results confirmed his progress. His physical attributes remained at 13,000 kilograms of strength and defense, with a speed of 40 meters per second, but his spirit attribute had risen to 150 kilograms. In only 10 days, he had increased his spiritual power by 140 kilograms. More importantly, his control over his body had reached a level where he could use his strength with complete precision. Satisfied with his progress, Alex decided it was finally time to focus on swordsmanship. However, before beginning serious training, he needed additional top-grade cosmic crystals to continue cultivating, and a proper teacher who could guide his sword practice. With those goals in mind, he left his room and headed toward Elizabeth's chambers. His journey was interrupted by a cold voice. The speaker was Erza, the daughter of Alex's third uncle. She was roughly his age, and had been born only one day before him. Alex remembered her clearly from his childhood visits. Back then, when he had been celebrated as a prodigy, Erza had constantly followed him around and called him Big Brother, despite technically being older. Now, however, she looked at him with open contempt. She accused him of freeloading off the Aurelian family, claiming that he had consumed resources for an entire year without contributing anything in return. Alex found the situation almost amusing. Once again, he was reminded how easily people changed when talent and status disappeared. Yet instead of becoming bitter, he focused on the people who had shown him kindness. Elizabeth, his grandmother, Rina, Lena, and even Granny Melita from his previous life had proven that goodness still existed. Remaining polite, Alex asked what Erza believed he should contribute. She sarcastically suggested that he perform laundry work or help the kitchen servants, since he was supposedly useless otherwise. Rather than becoming angry, Alex calmly replied that he would inform his mother of Erza's suggestions and let Elizabeth decide how he could help the family. The moment Elizabeth's name entered the conversation, Erza's confidence shattered. Her face turned pale. She immediately realized her mistake. Even so, she stubbornly lashed out one last time, declaring that once she climbed the Tower of Ascension and surpassed Elizabeth in talent, she would convince the family ancestor to deal with Alex and his mother. Alex found her words confusing. Based on everything he had learned, Elizabeth was already an extraordinarily powerful martial artist, likely a martial lord or even a martial king. However, he remained unaware of a hidden problem. Members of the Moriarty family had secretly been poisoning the minds of younger Aurelian family members against him and Elizabeth. When Alex arrived at Elizabeth's room, he discovered that she already knew about the confrontation. She greeted him with a sorrowful expression and immediately apologized for the treatment he had received. She even offered to punish Erza and anyone else responsible. Alex responded with surprising maturity. He explained that he truly felt blessed to have parents like Elizabeth and his missing father. He refused to hold a grudge against a child and believed that his future achievements achievements would determine how others viewed him. If he climbed high enough in the Tower of Ascension, everyone would respect him naturally. If he failed, then mockery would be unavoidable. Elizabeth was deeply moved by his words. She could see how much hardship had matured her son. Overcome with emotion, she hugged him tightly and promised that she would always support him. When Alex explained that he needed top-grade cosmic crystals and a sword instructor, Elizabeth immediately handed him a space ring containing 100 top-quality cosmic crystals. She then revealed that she would personally teach him swordsmanship later that afternoon. Alex's excitement was obvious. Calling her the best mother in the universe, he hugged her before leaving. Once he was gone, Elizabeth's loving demeanor vanished. Her eyes turned cold as Lena and Rena appeared beside her. She ordered them to punish anyone who dared insult Alex again, regardless of the consequences. Back in his room, Alex immediately began using his new resources. He removed 5 top-grade cosmic crystals from the ring and activated the cultivate function. The crystals dissolved instantly as the Infinite Cultivation System resumed absorbing energy. According to his calculations, the next breakthrough would arrive in 100 minutes. While waiting, Alex resumed practicing the basic sword technique. Drawing upon lessons from countless web novels he had read in his previous life, he firmly believed that true mastery began with fundamentals. Rather than chasing flashy techniques, he focused entirely on refining, slash, chop, and thrust. 100 minutes later, he reached another breakthrough and advanced without hesitation. He barely paused to examine the results because another breakthrough was already approaching. He continued training, gradually smoothing out his movements. Eventually, he succeeded in linking the 3 basic attacks together into a seamless flow, officially advancing his sword technique to level 2. At nearly the same moment, the next cultivation breakthrough arrived. Alex advanced to cultivation level 7. The surge of power was unlike anything he had experienced before. When he finally checked his panel, the results left him stunned. His cultivation base had reached 160,000 out of 320,000. His energy absorption rate had risen to 7 points per second. His physical attributes had skyrocketed to 21,500 kilograms of strength and defense, while his speed reached 50 meters per second. The biggest surprise, however, was his spirit attribute. It had exploded to 1,000 kilograms. Immediately, Alex sensed a dramatic change. His mental power extended beyond his body and spread into the surrounding environment. Everything within 10 meters became perfectly clear to him. Divine sense. Then he discovered something even more incredible. A nearby pen caught his attention. Focusing his mind, he attempted to move it. The pen rose into the air. Alex stared in disbelief as he freely manipulated it with pure mental power. At that moment, he realized he had become a spirit master. Spirit masters were legendary figures capable of controlling objects without physical contact. More importantly, this opportunity only existed during the martial warrior realm. Anyone who failed to awaken such abilities before advancing beyond the first major realm lost the chance forever. For Alex, this was a once-in-a-lifetime achievement, and he had obtained it perfectly. Alex spent some time experimenting with his newly awakened spirit master abilities after discovering that his spirit attribute had surpassed 1,000 kilograms. He focused on a simple pen and practiced moving it with his mind. Although his telekinetic control was limited to a radius of roughly 10 meters, he was thrilled by the result. It was not especially useful in combat yet, but it represented the beginning of a completely new path of power. Spirit masters were rare and terrifying existences, and Alex intended to explore every possibility the ability offered. After satisfying his curiosity, Alex shifted his attention back to cultivation. Using the Infinite Cultivation System, he calculated the amount of energy required to reach level 9. According to the system's progression, every 9 levels represented a major power leap similar to a realm breakthrough in the game that had transmigrated with him. The calculation revealed that he would need another 340,000 units of energy, equivalent to 7 top-grade cosmic crystals. Without hesitation, he fed 7 more crystals into the system. By this point, he had already consumed 13 top-grade cosmic crystals since beginning his cultivation journey. What Alex did not realize was that such resources were treasures capable of triggering wars among lower-level martial artists. A single crystal could drive countless cultivators into madness. After lunch, Alex headed toward the Aurelian family training grounds. He wanted to warm up before meeting Elizabeth for his first formal sword lesson. The training grounds were enormous and filled with family members practicing various martial arts. The moment Alex arrived, numerous eyes turned toward him. Predictably, mocking comments followed. Several young relatives ridiculed him for spending 2 years unconscious and questioned whether he had any chance of achieving success in the Tower of Ascension. Alex ignored every insult. Experience had taught him that arguing with fools rarely produced results. Instead, he moved to a quiet corner, drew his wooden training sword, and continued refining the basic sword technique. Level 2 was proving far more difficult than Level 1, requiring smoother transitions and better control. An hour later, Elizabeth arrived. The atmosphere changed instantly. Every member of the younger generation made space for her without hesitation. Her reputation and strength commanded genuine fear and respect. When she approached Alex, her expression became completely serious. She informed him that, within the training grounds, she would no longer act as his mother. She would be his master, and she would not show mercy during training. Alex immediately responded with an exaggerated military salute and loudly declared his readiness to endure any hardship. The unexpectedly comedic response nearly broke Elizabeth's composure, and even she struggled to suppress a smile. Accepting his answer, Elizabeth demonstrated all 9 levels of the basic sword technique in one continuous sequence. Alex watched with shining eyes. Every movement was elegant, efficient, and precise. To him, she looked incredible. He accidentally called her mom, while praising her before quickly correcting himself to master. The brief slip earned him a calm but amused glance. Elizabeth then ordered him to demonstrate his current progress. Alex performed levels 1 and 2 of the basic sword technique flawlessly. The display genuinely surprised her. She knew her son had only recently awakened from a 2-year coma, yet he had already reached such proficiency. What she did not know was that Alex had actually achieved this progress in only 2 days rather than 10. Although impressed, Elizabeth pointed out numerous flaws and inefficiencies in his movements. Alex listened attentively to every correction. The more she explained, the more he realized just how profound her mastery truly was. Her understanding of swordsmanship far exceeded anything he had imagined. At one point, he even felt sorry for the Moriarty family. Allowing someone as talented as Elizabeth to be mistreated was an astonishing waste. Applying her guidance immediately, Alex refined his technique. Unnecessary movements disappeared. His attacks became more direct, economical, and effective. His growth accelerated dramatically under her supervision. 3 hours passed as the sun gradually descended toward the horizon. While Alex trained, Elizabeth silently observed. She could clearly tell that her son possessed far more strength than before. The mysterious cosmic crystals had obviously transformed him somehow, though she could not understand exactly how. Part of her even wondered whether he had received some kind of divine revelation. Regardless of the reason, one thing was obvious. Alex now had genuine potential. Determined to maximize that potential, Elizabeth decided to push him even harder. Only 15 days remained before the Tower of Ascension trial. She wanted him to reach at least level 5 inches, the basic sword technique, before then. The reason was simple. Every 10 floors of the Ascension Tower contained combat trials, where climbers would be forced into battle scenarios. Success depended not only on physical strength, but also on martial skill, confidence, and mental resilience. Mastery of external martial arts significantly increased the chances of advancement. Finally, Elizabeth ended the session and ordered Alex to return at exactly 5 o'clock the next morning. She intended to continue his training personally. After she left, Alex rested briefly and looked around the training grounds. Most people had already finished training. He even noticed Urza still practicing diligently. Since she would challenge the tower one day before him, she was clearly taking the upcoming trial seriously. As Alex prepared to leave, the sky suddenly exploded with light. A gigantic silhouette appeared overhead. The figure resembled a mountain-sized god whose presence seemed to dominate the heavens themselves. Every member of the Aurelian family immediately bowed. Fanatical excitement spread throughout the younger generation. The family ancestor had appeared. Even Alex was stunned. The overwhelming aura emanating from the old man felt capable of destroying the world itself. Alex instantly recognized what he was witnessing, a martial saint. The ancestor revealed that the image was merely a projection created from his energy. Even so, its power was terrifying. He announced important news. All family members between 14 and 15 years old would travel to the central continent the following day, because the virtual battleground would open soon. Those preparing to climb the Tower of Ascension were specifically ordered to attend. Once the projection disappeared, Alex struggled to comprehend how powerful the real martial saint must be if a mere projection possessed such overwhelming pressure. Elizabeth soon appeared beside him and explained the purpose of the virtual battleground. It was a simulated battlefield where participants fought monsters under completely realistic conditions. Even pain felt real. Such opportunities were rare and normally available only to elite training camps. More importantly, real combat experience would dramatically improve Alex's swordsmanship. After learning they would depart the following evening, Alex returned to his room. He took a long shower, ate a hearty meal, and went to sleep. Although he had become vastly stronger than before, he was still fundamentally mortal and required food, rest, and recovery. Before falling asleep, he reviewed his cultivation progress. He estimated that only 3 more hours were needed to reach level 8, while level 9 would arrive roughly 13 hours after that. His strength was growing rapidly, but the Tower of Ascension and the challenges waiting beyond it were approaching even faster. Alex slept from 7 in the evening until 4:30 the next morning, giving his body the rest it needed after days of intense cultivation and sword practice. The moment he woke up, he immediately opened the Infinite Cultivation interface and pressed the long-awaited breakthrough button. A powerful surge of energy flooded his body, strengthening both his physical and spiritual capabilities. His cultivation advanced to level 8. His cultivation base rose to 484,000 out of 640,000, and his energy absorption increased to 8 points per second. His attributes also experienced another dramatic leap. His strength and defense both reached 26,500 kilograms. His speed climbed to 55 meters per second, and his spirit attribute doubled to 2,000 kilograms. The increase in mental power was especially noticeable. When Alex extended his divine sense, he discovered that he could now perceive everything within a 20-meter radius around him. The range had doubled compared to before, confirming that his spirit attribute directly enhanced his spiritual perception. Satisfied with his progress, he freshened up and headed directly to the training grounds. The day ahead would be crucial. The family would depart for the central continent that evening, and before then Elizabeth intended to teach him up to level 5 of the basic sword technique, or perhaps even further. When Alex arrived, Elizabeth was already waiting. He instinctively greeted her as his mother, only to be reminded once again that within the training grounds, she was his master. Laughing awkwardly, he corrected himself and addressed her properly. Their playful exchange ended quickly when Elizabeth's expression became serious. The training session was about to begin. She ordered Alex to draw his sword, and then began demonstrating level 3 of the basic sword technique. This level focused on precise cutting angles, blade alignment, and minimizing wasted motion. Every strike followed the most efficient path possible. Thanks to his tremendous mental power, divine sense, and enhanced perception, Alex absorbed every movement in a single viewing. His spirit was already stronger than that of many martial masters, something completely abnormal for someone in the martial warrior realm. After finishing her demonstration, Elizabeth asked whether he needed to see it again. Instead of answering, Alex immediately began performing the technique himself. Not only did he copy the movements perfectly, but he also synchronized levels 1, 2, and 3 into a smooth and unified flow. Elizabeth's eyes widened in shock. She had known her son was talented, but this level of learning speed exceeded all expectations. A deep sense of pride blossomed within her as years of sadness slowly faded away. Encouraged by his success, Elizabeth moved on to level 4. Unlike the previous level, this one focused on timing, positioning, and identifying openings during combat. As she demonstrated, Alex witnessed something astonishing. A massive boar-like monster seemed to materialize before her. He could see her fighting it gracefully, exploiting every weakness and avoiding every attack. It was as if her mastery allowed her to visualize a real opponent while practicing. Recognizing that this level required actual combat experience, Elizabeth became Alex's sparring partner. She heavily suppressed her strength and attacked him directly. Even so, Alex stood no chance. For 10 straight minutes, she struck him repeatedly, while denying him every opportunity to retaliate. Yet she occasionally left tiny openings on purpose. Whenever she did, Alex reacted perfectly, exploiting them without hesitation. The brutal training continued for an entire hour. By the end, Alex's body was covered in bruises, but he had successfully grasped the essence of level 4. Elizabeth praised his progress and declared it was time for breakfast. They ate beside the training grounds, where training was the only acceptable activity as a sign of respect for martial practice. Afterward, they moved on to level 5. This level integrated offense and defense into a single flow. Parries, deflections, blocks, and counterattacks all became one seamless action. During her demonstration, another opponent manifested before Elizabeth. This time it was a massive flame lion. Alex could see every detail of the battle as she calmly fought and eventually slew the beast with a single strike. When it was Alex's turn, Elizabeth once again became his opponent. 3 additional hours passed as she relentlessly drilled the technique into him through combat. The more she taught, the more convinced she became that Alex's talent exceeded even that of her husband, the famous sword prince. She remembered that Alex's father had required a full day to master level 5 at age 12. Alex accomplished the same feat in mere hours. After a short break, Elizabeth introduced level 6. Unlike the previous levels, no imaginary opponent appeared. Instead, the focus shifted entirely to body mechanics. Hip movement, stance, torque, and efficient force generation became the core principles. This level proved significantly harder for Alex. For the first time, he could not learn everything instantly. He had to repeat the movements over and over before finally mastering them after 2 hours. With 6 levels learned, Elizabeth immediately tested him again. She launched another merciless sparring session, forcing Alex to combine everything into practical combat. 3 exhausting hours later, he lay battered and exhausted on the ground. Yet the results were undeniable. Everyone watching now viewed him differently. Many family members who had once doubted him could no longer deny his talent. Not everyone was impressed, however. Urza watched from a distance and coldly dismissed his achievements. Claiming she had already mastered level 8 of the basic dagger technique, she called him a waste. Yet despite her words, jealousy clearly lingered in her eyes. After returning to his room, Alex stepped into a cold shower. As the water soothed his bruises, he activated another breakthrough. Instantly, all exhaustion vanished. His cultivation advanced to level 9. His cultivation base jumped to 650,000 out of 10 million, while his energy absorption reached 9 points per second. His strength and defense climbed to 32,000 kilograms. His speed increased to 60 meters per second, and his spirit attribute exploded to 5,000 kilograms. By the time the breakthrough ended, every injury from the day's training had disappeared completely. Alex emerged stronger than ever, ready for the challenges awaiting him on the central continent. Alex awoke to a knock on his door, still groggy from sleep. For a moment, he thought it was early morning, but Lena's reminder quickly brought him back to reality. The family would be departing in only 1 hour. He had accidentally slept through the entire afternoon after his exhausting training session and breakthrough. Thanking Lena for waking him, Alex hurried to wash up and prepare himself. After getting dressed, Alex chose a simple outfit consisting of a black t-shirt, navy blue jeans, and black shoes. The transformation of his body over the past weeks was now impossible to ignore. The weak and frail teenager who had awakened from a coma was gone. In his place stood a handsome young man with sharp features, a toned physique, and a height of 175 centimeters. His cultivation and training had reshaped him completely. As he stepped outside, Alex realized something important. Since arriving in this new world, he had barely left the Aurelian family estate. Despite possessing advanced technology far beyond anything from his previous life, he had never bothered exploring it. His focus had always been cultivation, survival, and preparing for the Tower of Ascension. Outside, around 12 young family members had already gathered for the journey. Alex recognized only a few of them and quietly stood off to the side. He had no interest in socializing, especially since most of them viewed him unfavorably. Ironically, some of the girls among the younger generation reacted differently now. One female cousin quietly remarked on how handsome Alex had become and suggested talking to him. Before anyone could act, Urza immediately intervened, intervened. She dismissed Alex as nothing more than a pretty face and warned everyone against associating with him. Her words instantly discouraged the others. Alex could only stare at her in confusion. It seemed as though Urza had made it her personal mission to compete with him in everything. Fortunately, he no longer cared much about sibling relationships. The betrayal he had suffered from Kate in his previous life had left a lasting mark on him. One iron rod to the back of the head had been enough to cure many of his illusions about familial affection. Soon afterward, Elizabeth arrived. Alex immediately greeted her with a compliment, telling her she looked beautiful and joking that his own good looks clearly came from her. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and replied that his narcissism was already approaching the level of his missing father, the Sword Prince. Alex grinned. Teasing his mother had become one of his favorite hobbies. Despite everything, she remained the closest person to him in this world. Curious about the upcoming journey, Alex asked who would accompany them. Elizabeth explained that besides herself, Alex's third uncle and butler Dominic would also be traveling. She then handed him an advanced wristband and explained its functions. The device served as a second-generation nanocomputer and communicator. After awakening his talent, Alex would be able to connect to the virtual network through it. More impressively, the wristband could transform into any weapon he desired. The generated weapon possessed B-grade quality, powerful enough to kill a martial lord-level monster if wielded properly. Alex immediately recognized how valuable such technology was. Wealthy families truly enjoyed enormous advantages. While ordinary people struggled for resources, powerful families could focus entirely on growth and development. After securing the wristband on his arm, Alex joined the others as his third uncle ordered everyone aboard the airship. The vessel resembled a futuristic jet fighter, though significantly larger and more refined. Once everyone boarded, it launched into the sky with explosive speed. Alex eagerly claimed a window seat. This was his first opportunity to see the world from above. During the journey, he observed the light domain firsthand. Despite its name, it was not literally made of light. Instead, it functioned as a massive barrier separating humanity from the darkness beyond. Within the light domain, life appeared relatively normal. Oceans, islands, cities, and wildlife all existed as they once had. The danger came from outside. At one point, the airship detected a dark storm cloud filled with dangerous lightning. The onboard defense system immediately activated, firing a powerful laser cannon that completely vaporized the threat before it could endanger the passengers. The display reminded Alex that even humanity's safe zones still required constant vigilance. After 3 hours of travel at approximately 5,000 kilometers per hour, the group finally arrived at the central continent. This was the heart of human civilization and the most powerful region in the world. Every emperor family resided there, along with the headquarters of the Martial Alliance. The capital city served as a gathering place for the strongest forces in existence. The Aurelian family itself maintained a 7-star hotel called Hotel Glandale. Their airship landed directly on the rooftop, where managers, guards, and staff were already waiting. As soon as the family emerged, everyone bowed respectfully. After introductions, the group was escorted to their rooms. Alex's room was located directly beside Elizabeth's. Not wanting to waste such an opportunity, Alex immediately asked permission to explore the city. Elizabeth readily agreed. She encouraged him to visit the Aurora Martial Institution, the prestigious academy he would attend after awakening his talent. She even transferred spending money into his account. Knowing that Aurora City was one of the safest locations in the world, Elizabeth had no concerns about letting him explore independently. In fact, she believed it would be good for him after spending 2 years unconscious and then locking himself away to train. Excited, Alex quickly refreshed himself and left the hotel. His original goal was simply to wander the city and perhaps visit the Tower of Ascension itself. He noticed his cousins leaving together but ignored them entirely. He preferred exploring alone. As he wandered through the streets, he overheard a conversation about a famous performer named Hana who would be holding a concert that evening at the cultural hall. Curious, Alex decided to follow the crowd and experience a concert in this new world. 15 minutes later, he arrived at the venue. Unfortunately, trouble found him almost immediately. While approaching the ticket counter, someone grabbed his shoulder and attempted to shove him aside so a young master could buy tickets first. To Alex, however, the push felt like an insect trying to move a mountain. Acting entirely on instinct, he grabbed the man's wrist and lightly pushed back. The result was disastrous. The man was launched through the air and sent flying across the area. The crowd froze in shock. Alex froze as well. Only then did he realize what he had done. With over 32,000 kilograms of strength, even a casual movement was terrifying. Panicking, Alex immediately fled the scene. The last thing he wanted was to create trouble for Elizabeth, especially if the offended party belonged to an emperor family. As he hurried into a flying cab, angry shouts erupted behind him. Someone was already ordering others to pursue him. Alex's heart sank. Despite his immense power, he remained cautious and somewhat timid by nature. Having lost one family and finally found another, he desperately wanted to avoid dragging Elizabeth and the Aurelian family into unnecessary conflict. Unfortunately, it seemed trouble had already begun chasing him. Alex was genuinely panicking as his flying cab sped through Aurora City. At first, fear consumed him. If the people chasing him belonged to an emperor family, he had already decided he would swallow his pride and apologize. After all, he had only recently gained a loving family and did not want to create trouble for Elizabeth. While watching the automated vehicle travel toward the Aurora Martial Institution, Alex noticed another car closely tailing him through the reflective glass. However, by the time the cab stopped before the institution's enormous gates, his mind had cooled down. He carefully carefully reconsidered the situation and came to a simple conclusion. If his pursuers came from an emperor family, he would apologize. If they belonged to a saint family, he would tell them to get lost. And if they ranked below that, then they deserved whatever happened next. Soon, another vehicle arrived behind him. 4 young men stepped out. The lackey he had accidentally thrown earlier was absent, likely receiving medical treatment somewhere. One handsome youth immediately pointed at Alex and demanded an explanation for injuring his subordinate before running away. Remaining calm and polite, Alex asked for the young man's identity. The answer amused him. The youth proudly introduced himself as Ren Windsor, the 3rd young master of the Windsor family, whose ancestor was Monarch Farron Windsor. Instead of feeling intimidated, Alex became completely dumbfounded. The Windsor family was merely a monarch-level family from the eastern continent. Compared to the saint-ranked Aurelian family, their status was significantly lower. The realization instantly erased all of Alex's worries. Without hesitation, he walked forward and slapped all 4 boys unconscious. The entire confrontation ended almost immediately. Alex was more annoyed than angry. He had spent half the evening worrying about offending some terrifying emperor family, only to discover his pursuers came from a family beneath his own standing. Muttering complaints about having his time wasted, he called an ambulance for them and casually walked away. Afterward, Alex tried to explore the Aurora Martial Institution. Through the massive gates, he could see glimpses of magnificent buildings and advanced facilities. Unfortunately, a security guard quickly warned him that the area was restricted. Accepting the rejection, Alex moved on and continued exploring Aurora City. His next destination was the Tower of Ascension. Unfortunately, he encountered another disappointment. A 5-kilometer exclusion zone surrounded the tower, heavily guarded by powerful soldiers. Ordinary visitors were forbidden from approaching. Although he could not see the tower up close, he still spent the evening wandering through the city and observing its culture. The experience taught him an important lesson. This world respected strength and status above all else. Throughout the night, Alex encountered numerous arrogant young masters attempting to throw their weight around. Yet the moment he displayed the insignia of the saint-ranked Aurelian family, their confidence disappeared and they immediately became polite. The contrast was so dramatic that Alex almost found it funny. Eventually, he returned to Hotel Glandale and prepared for sleep. Before resting, his thoughts turned toward the upcoming virtual battlefield training camp. He planned to use the 6 levels of swordsmanship he had already learned, and later convince Elizabeth to teach him the remaining 3 levels of the basic sword technique. Before going to bed, Alex checked his cultivation system. His cultivation base remained at 650,000 out of 10 million, while his energy absorption rate stood at 9 points per second. The numbers reminded him how far he still had to go. To reach the next major realm before entering the Tower of Ascension, he would need another 187 top-grade cosmic crystals and approximately 12 days of cultivation. Since only 13 days remained before the tower trial, time was becoming a serious concern. Without hesitation, Alex contacted Elizabeth and requested another 100 top-grade cosmic crystals. Although she was increasingly puzzled by her son's incredible resource consumption, she trusted him completely and provided the crystals anyway. Alex happily absorbed all of them into the Infinite Cultivation System and resumed passive cultivation before falling asleep. Only 2 hours later, morning arrived. At 7 o'clock, Alex woke up, washed up, and headed downstairs to the hotel restaurant. Most members of the Aurelian family were already eating breakfast. Since Elizabeth and his 3rd uncle were absent, Alex sat alone and placed an order. The order stunned everyone. Alex requested 5 kilograms of grade 1 monster meat. The entire restaurant froze. Grade 1 monster meat contained enormous amounts of energy. Even 10 grams could keep an ordinary person full for 2 days. The amount Alex ordered should have been dangerous for most people. The restaurant manager rushed over in panic and begged him to reconsider. Terrified of potential consequences, the manager even contacted Elizabeth for confirmation. To his astonishment, she calmly approved the request. Once the food arrived, Alex consumed every bit of it. Silence filled the restaurant. Everyone stared in disbelief. Even Urza was shocked. She knew her own body could not withstand that amount of monster meat. Watching Alex casually finish the meal only deepened her jealousy. Shortly afterward, the family departed for the Martial Alliance headquarters, where the virtual training camp would begin. Upon arrival, Alex found himself among more than 5,000 young participants. Every one of them came from powerful backgrounds. Most belonged to saint or emperor families, while some from monarch or king families had received special recommendations. As Alex surveyed the crowd, his eyes suddenly landed on a familiar group, the Moriarty family. The moment their gazes met, cold hostility flashed between them. Alex immediately looked away, refusing to acknowledge them. He no longer considered them important. However, one handsome young man dressed in a white robe reacted very differently. Clenching his fists, he silently vowed to surpass the legendary achievements of Alex's missing father, the Sword Prince, and become the greatest talent in the Moriarty family. Before tensions could escalate, a middle-aged representative from the Martial Alliance stepped forward. Without wasting time, he introduced the purpose of the gathering. Everyone would participate in a 5-day virtual training camp using advanced virtual battlefield helmets. The participants would fight monsters for 12 hours every day, earning points based on their performance. The reward for first place immediately captured everyone's attention. The champion would receive the latest generation wristband developed by the Martial Alliance. Unlike ordinary wristbands, this one would specifically assist future ascenders inside the Tower of Ascension. It could even provide support during the tower's infamous mental trials that occurred every 10 floors. The Alliance representative then issued a direct challenge to the thousands of gathered geniuses. The purpose of the camp was simple. They wanted to identify the greatest young genius genius among them all. Alex found himself captivated by the Martial Alliance's announcement. The unveiling of the newest generation wristband had stunned not only the 5,000 young participants but even many of the experienced elders present. Judging by their reactions, this technology was a closely guarded secret that had never been revealed publicly before. As Alex stared at the prize, desire burned in his eyes. Over the past few weeks, he had fully accepted his identity as Alex Moriarty. The lingering separation between his old life and his new one had finally disappeared. Now he had a single, unwavering goal. He wanted to become the strongest existence alive. He never wanted to experience helplessness again. He wanted enough power to protect Elizabeth, restore his family's dignity, and ensure that no one could ever betray or harm the people he cared about. His ambitions stretched even further. Deep within his heart, a dangerous thought had begun taking shape. If he one day reached the absolute peak of existence, perhaps even time and space could be manipulated. If his missing father was dead, Alex would bring him back. If he was still alive somewhere beyond the light domain, trapped in the wilderness filled with dark creatures, Alex would personally tear apart every obstacle and bring him home. The Alliance representative soon addressed the gathering and asked whether they were ready to change both their own destinies and the future of humanity. Before anyone could respond, a young member of a saint family raised a practical concern. He pointed out that some participants were nearly 15 years old, while others had only recently turned 14. The difference in age naturally created a significant power gap. The representative patiently explained that this special training camp would be held 3 times every year at the beginning, middle, and end. Those who failed today would have additional opportunities before entering the Tower of Ascension. The explanation instantly relaxed many participants. What had initially felt like a life-or-death competition now seemed like a valuable learning experience. As the tension disappeared, admiration quickly shifted toward the most famous prodigies in attendance. One of them was Cale Moriarty. Young men and women from various powerful families openly cheered for him. A shy young girl even wished him luck personally. Cale accepted the attention with practiced ease, clearly accustomed to being treated as a star. Soon afterward, Cale approached Urza. Taking her hand politely, he expressed his hope for a good competition, while warning her that he could not afford to hold back because the wristband was extremely important to him. Urza immediately blushed, her face turning bright red as she promised not to surrender easily. Then Cale turned toward Alex. It was obvious he intended to provoke him. Unfortunately for Kyle, Alex could not have cared less. Instead of acknowledging him, Alex simply yawned. Without even properly looking at him, he dismissed him as a childish brat and walked away. The entire gathering fell silent. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. Cale Moriarty was one of the brightest stars among the younger generation, yet Alex had treated him like an annoying insect. Even more shocking was Cale's reaction. He did nothing. Although rage twisted his expression and blood dripped from his clenched fist, he remained silent. Elizabeth watched the scene with obvious satisfaction. Her son's maturity and confidence filled her with pride. Soon afterward, the Alliance representative distributed the virtual battlefield helmets and instructed everyone to return to their hotels or homes before activating them at exactly 9 o'clock. The devices would only function within Aurora City. As the Aurelian family returned to Hotel Glandale, Alex questioned Elizabeth about the battlefield. She explained that the simulation covered a 1,000-kilometer section of wilderness surrounding the light domain on the eastern continent. The participants would encounter realistic monster populations and would need to decide when to fight and when to retreat. To ensure fairness, everyone would automatically gain night vision while inside the simulation. Alex immediately understood the significance of the challenge. This was not a simple game. It was a realistic combat environment designed to teach survival, strategy, and battle experience. After receiving a brief motivational speech from his third uncle, Alex returned to his room and put on the helmet. The moment he activated it, his consciousness was pulled through what felt like a dark tunnel. When his vision cleared, he found himself standing before the gates of Lian City, a frontier settlement on the eastern continent. Nearly 5,000 participants surrounded him. Beyond the massive city gates stretched the dangerous wilderness. Alex marveled at the realism. He could feel the air against his skin, breathe naturally, and perceive every detail. It felt less like a simulation and more like entering another world entirely. At exactly 9 o'clock, the city gates opened. Most participants rushed out immediately, eager to secure easy points by hunting weaker monsters. Alex remained still. Outside the simulation, countless spectators watched live broadcasts of the event. Many viewers were confused by his behavior. Only after everyone else had departed did Alex finally move. First, he tested his equipment. Focusing on his wristband, he transformed it into a sleek obsidian black sword. Satisfied with the result, he checked the point system. Grade 0 monsters awarded 1 point. Grade 1 monsters ranged from 5 to 20 points depending on strength. Grade 2 monsters awarded 100 points but were considered impossible prey for unawakened participants. Most competitors would naturally hunt Grade 0 creatures. The elite geniuses would target low-level Grade 1 monsters. Alex had different plans. He intended to hunt Grade 1 high-level monsters. They offered better rewards and, more importantly, superior combat experience. The moment he made his decision, he exploded forward. His speed shocked everyone watching. Numerous high-ranking observers immediately demanded a dedicated screen focused entirely on Alex. Activating his divine sense, which now covered a 50-meter radius thanks to his powerful spirit attribute, he ignored the outer hunting zones and charged deeper into dangerous territory. Before long, a massive saber-toothed tiger lunged toward him. It was a grade 1 mid-level monster. Most participants would have panicked. Alex smiled. The creature was not even his intended target, but it would serve as an excellent warm-up. A manic grin spread across his face as he raised his black sword and invited the beast to dance. At that moment, it became painfully obvious to everyone watching. Behind Alex's normally calm personality lurked someone who genuinely loved battle, someone who might just be a complete combat junkie. Alex's first battle inside the virtual battlefield immediately proved why he had attracted so much attention. A grade 1 mid-tier saber-toothed tiger, a monster comparable to a level 4 to 6 martial warrior, charged at him with terrifying momentum. Such creatures were powerful enough to make ordinary warriors hesitate. Alex, however, felt only excitement. The moment the beast entered range, his obsidian black sword flashed through the air in a clean, controlled arc. There was no prolonged struggle and no dramatic exchange of blows. The tiger's head separated from its body instantly. The corpse continued running several more steps before collapsing, while a crimson spray painted the air behind it. Alex calmly glanced at his wristband and noted the 15 points he had earned before continuing deeper into the battlefield. 10 minutes later, he entered the ruins of an abandoned district. Cracked roads, leaning towers, rusted steel, and thick vines created a haunting landscape. There he encountered a crimson-maned lion standing atop a ruined structure. Red flames flickered through its mane, and when it leaped toward him, even the air seemed to tremble. This was a grade 1 high-tier beast. In the Alliance monitoring hall, many experts immediately focused on Alex's screen. The lion struck with enough force to crush boulders, slamming its massive paw against Alex's sword. Sparks exploded everywhere, yet Alex barely moved. His boots carved shallow grooves into the earth, but his stance remained perfectly stable. Then he attacked. With a single slash, he split the lion from shoulder to hip. The beast died instantly, its body opening apart as if sliced through by an invisible force. Another 20 points appeared on his counter. Not long afterward, a shadow panther targeted him. The monster specialized in stealth and assassination, famous for killing martial warriors before they even realized danger was near. The beast vanished into darkness, attempting to ambush him. Alex simply closed his eyes. Using his 50-meter divine sense, he detected subtle disturbances in the environment. The moment he located the panther, his sword moved before the beast could strike. One leg was severed instantly. When the wounded monster attempted to retreat into the shadows, Alex appeared before it and calmly drove his blade through its skull. 3 monsters had fallen, 1 mid-tier and 2 high-tier grade, 1 beasts, 55 points. His performance immediately shook the Alliance observers. One martial monarch slammed his hand against a table and demanded to know who this young monster was. When officials revealed that Alex was the son of Noah Moriarty, the legendary sword prince, understanding spread through the room. His frightening talent suddenly seemed far less surprising. Meanwhile, Elizabeth received a call from Alliance Council member Leonard Morse. The elderly expert excitedly informed her that her son had already slaughtered 2 grade 1 high-tier beasts and a mid-tier beast in less than 20 minutes. Pride filled Elizabeth's heart as she listened. Alex continued his hunt without pause. By the end of the first day, he had killed 59 monsters. 23 were mid-tier beasts, while 36 were high-tier beasts. His score reached an astonishing 1,065 points. Second place wasn't even close. Cale Moriarty, who occupied the runner-up position, had only 87 points. Furious and humiliated, Cale accused Alex of cheating. He simply could not believe someone could earn more than 10 times his score. The Moriarty elders remained silent, unwilling to admit what the rankings clearly demonstrated. Urza suffered a similar blow. She ranked 5th overall, and finally realized the enormous gap separating her from Alex. The boy she constantly mocked now stood far above her. That night, after devouring several plates of spirit beast steak, Alex joined Elizabeth in the hotel's private training room. There, he demonstrated the first 6 levels of the basic sword art. Constant combat throughout the day had allowed him to completely integrate the forms into real battle. Satisfied, Elizabeth taught him the 7th form. This level focused on deception, subtle movements, disguising killing intent, and creating openings through misdirection. Alex practiced relentlessly for 5 hours before finally sleeping. The following days became a blur of slaughter and improvement. On the second day, Alex killed 100 grade 1 beasts and pushed his total score to 3,213 points. That night, Elizabeth taught him the 8th form, which emphasized adaptation, unpredictable reactions, broken rhythms, and instinctive responses against multiple attackers. By the 3rd day, Alex had accumulated 200 kills. The Alliance's attention was now completely focused on him. He was no longer simply powerful. He represented unprecedented potential. That night, Elizabeth revealed the 9th and final form of the basic sword art. This level embodied complete unity between sword and body. The weapon ceased being an external tool and became an extension of the swordsman himself. She also explained that mastering this path could eventually lead to sword intent, a legendary achievement usually reserved for true martial artists. On the fourth day, Alex hunted only grade 1 high-tier monsters. By the fifth day, his score had reached 9,999 points. However, Alex was no longer interested in points. He had ventured beyond the safe hunting zones and entered the true wilderness. There, he encountered a terrifying grade 2 low-tier steel-horned dragon rhino. The massive beast, stretched 10 meters long, possessed armor capable of resisting siege cannons, and wielded strength far beyond his own. The Alliance elders immediately panicked and ordered him to retreat. He ignored them. The monster charged like a living natural disaster. Despite being at least twice as powerful as Alex, the young swordsman remained calm. As the rhino approached, something changed within him. His mind entered absolute stillness. In that state, he perceived weaknesses invisible to ordinary eyes. He saw the gaps between armor plates, the flow of energy, and every vulnerable point. Then he swung. For a brief moment, silence consumed the battlefield. A thin black line appeared across the rhino's body. The gigantic beast continued forward for 2 steps before splitting cleanly in half. Blood, dust, and shattered stone exploded across the highway. The entire Alliance rose to its feet. Every expert recognized what had happened. Alex had awakened sword intent, not after becoming a martial artist, not after entering the tower. Before either of those milestones, history had been created. Watching from the hotel, Elizabeth broke down in tears of pride. Her son had exceeded every expectation. Standing alone amid the ruins, Alex smiled in satisfaction. The wristband prize was already his. More importantly, he had discovered the power of sword intent. Now, only one thing remained. He needed to wait for his 15th birthday and officially begin his journey into the Tower of Ascension. Alex emerged from the virtual battlefield, still riding the excitement of his historic achievement. As he removed the helmet, he found Elizabeth waiting beside him. Her gentle smile and proud eyes told him everything before she even spoke. She had watched the entire event unfold and knew exactly what he had accomplished. Unable to contain his excitement, Alex immediately told her about awakening sword intent. Even now, the memory of that final strike against the steel-horned dragon rhino made his blood race. Elizabeth listened calmly, but her satisfaction was obvious. She informed him that he had created history. No one had awakened sword intent before even becoming a true martial artist. When she asked what reward he wanted, Alex surprised her with a simple request. He wanted access to a private strength measuring machine. Ever since awakening sword intent, he had felt a dramatic increase in power and wanted to understand exactly how much stronger he had become. Elizabeth agreed and promised to arrange it the following day. Following her advice, Alex took a shower, ate a proper meal, and went to sleep. For the first time in a long while, he rested deeply and peacefully. The next morning, Alex woke up unusually early. Today was special. He would officially receive the Alliance's ultimate prize, the revolutionary wristband awarded only to the champion of the virtual battlefield competition. Filled with anticipation, he headed toward the restaurant. The sight that greeted him left him speechless. The entire restaurant had been transformed into what looked like a celebration hall. Decorative banners hung from the walls, the furniture gleamed, and every staff member stood in orderly formation. The moment Alex entered, everyone bowed simultaneously and congratulated him on his victory. Even the restaurant manager participated. Several younger members of the Aurelian family stepped forward and sincerely apologized for how they had treated him in the past. These were the same relatives who had once ignored or avoided him when he was considered a burden. Alex listened calmly. Deep down, he understood that admiration based solely on success could disappear just as quickly as it appeared. However, he chose not to create conflict and graciously accepted their apologies. His third uncle also approached and apologized for failing to protect or support him properly. He even asked Alex not to hold Urza's actions against her. Alex responded politely, dismissing the matter as childish behavior from someone still learning about the world. His uncle maintained a smile, although Alex noticed a slight twitch in the man's expression. Watching from the side, Elizabeth felt overwhelming pride. Everything Alex was receiving today had been earned through his own strength. After breakfast, Elizabeth escorted him to the Alliance headquarters. Unlike their previous visit, they were welcomed personally by a high-ranking officer and escorted deep into the facility. When Alex entered the central chamber, he nearly lost his composure. Standing before him were the 12 senators. These individuals were the strongest saints in humanity and the pillars supporting civilization itself. Alex had studied them before, making their presence even more overwhelming. Both he and Elizabeth offered respectful greetings. One of the senators stepped forward and personally awarded him the championship prize. The black wristband felt surprisingly light in Alex's hands, yet he knew it represented technology beyond anything he had ever imagined. The inventor, Tenzin, then explained its functions. The device was called the Omni-Weave Armament. Its first function allowed it to transform into virtually any weapon. Demonstrating this, Tenzin converted the wristband into a sleek, curved blade. He explained that, with sufficient force behind it, the weapon could even kill a martial monarch-level beast. Next came its armor function. The weapon melted and wrapped around Tenzin's body, becoming a flexible yet powerful full-body suit capable of surviving attacks from martial kings. The third function was measurement. The wristband could accurately analyze strength, speed, impact force, and numerous other physical metrics. Finally, it possessed an advanced artificial intelligence assistant and could even transform into a transport vehicle. To demonstrate, it briefly became a compact hover car before returning to bracelet form. Alex was thoroughly stunned. This reward exceeded every expectation. After thanking both Tenzin and the senators, he returned to the hotel with Elizabeth. Over the next 7 days, Alex isolated himself completely. He barely left his room, dedicating every waking moment to cultivation and sword practice. More specifically, he focused on refining sword intent. Every day felt like pushing his mind toward its limits, yet the rewards were immense. His strikes became cleaner, sharper, and more powerful. Finally, on the 7th night, his cultivation reached a critical point. His system panel displayed 10 million cultivation points, the exact requirement for a major breakthrough. Without hesitation, Alex initiated the process. Energy exploded throughout his body. His muscles, bones, skin, and spirit all transformed simultaneously. The pressure intensified until a violent wave of power erupted throughout the room. Even the Omni-Weave armament reacted, glowing brightly in response. When the transformation ended, Alex checked his status. He had officially reached cultivation level 10. The results were staggering. His strength and defense had jumped to 320 tons. His spirit reached 50 tons. His speed increased to 100 meters per second. Most importantly, his combat power now rivaled a level 6 martial master. Alex could barely believe the numbers. A single breakthrough had increased his power almost tenfold. A casual punch created a visible shockwave in the air. Yet instead of celebrating, he immediately returned to practicing sword intent. He understood that mastery of intent could multiply his already terrifying power several times over. During one training break, his Omni-Weave armament displayed an important news notification. Urza Aurelian had successfully reached the 60th stair of the Tower of Ascension. As a reward, she awakened an A-rank cultivation talent and an A-rank healing bloodline. The entire family was celebrating her success. Alex smiled after reading the report. Despite her previous hostility, he genuinely felt happy for her. An A-rank healer was an extraordinary treasure, and her future would undoubtedly be bright. Closing the notification, Alex tightened his grip on his sword. His own tower challenge was approaching rapidly. More than anything, he wanted to discover how many stairs he could climb. The answer would determine the future of his journey. That's all for this video. We'll be back again with another one soon, so drop a like and do subscribe if you enjoyed it and want more of the same.